you guys use it for your own POI. So I'm not gonna clap. You guys will have to track, okay?
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna clap.
I'll start my speech in
Can you
3.
impromptu?
I am doing impromptu. I'll do my speech in 3, 2, 1. So, Mr. Speaker, in a world where 80% of the population has superpowers, it is inevitable for there to be clear problems, but as a government side, we'll tell you why these problems are exclusive to the current world of where you have these superpowers. But secondarily, why is it that when you remove all these superpowers and go back to a normal state, are you able to get the best benefits and try to get away from the harms? However, you also have to remember that this motion is an actor motion. So we're also going to tell you why it is in the best interest of the government to be able to do this. Before that, some setup. What are some definitions that we have to talk about? What does it mean to have an uncanny superpower? We're talking about superpowers where there are probably very, very unique, and at the same time, it could be equally as useless as powerful as well, right? It could be, for example, someone who like sneezes and they like can use fire, or they could have like super strength in order to do all this. But here's the biggest problem that we have. But here's the context of the true problem. When you have superpowers, now there's a clear division between who is more powerful, but secondarily, who has the right to have power. And that, we believe, is the biggest problem. Why? Of 2 reasons. Number 1, we believe that this reason creates a more objective hierarchy. And reason why you need an objective, why you need probably a subjective hierarchy is because there's clear moving up and down social statuses. So if you're, for example, poor, if you have powers, you're able to probably rank up or move up. But what happens to those vulnerable stakeholders, those who are poor, but especially not even poor, those who don't have superpowers at all? No matter how smart a person is, they will all ultimately be at the bottom rank of a hierarchy. But the second reason why this is a big problem is because there is no solvency. You can't ever solve this type of problem, right? You can't ever break this social hierarchy and have somebody who was born without powers suddenly become the most powerful person. Lastly, the second point that we're going to point out is probably the idea that there is no moral balance, right? There's no way you can ensure that there's a moral balance. Why? Because objectively, the one who will probably enforce this moral framework is only going to be those who have the power. So no matter how much a government, right, who is able to pay a lot of money, like the US, and invest a lot of money in keeping these heroes or like these people in check, right, probably will not be able to actually create any type of moral framework that the superheroes are attached to. What are you going to see then? First argument, under the government side, under the opposition side, what you probably see is an objective hierarchy. But why is this bad? 3 reasons. Number 1, because at the end of the day, when you have an objective hierarchy, many of these people won't have they cannot hope for a better world or a better life. They know that their lives are only set to a certain amount of jobs, a certain amount of limits to their careers, and especially what type of abilities and capacities they have. And as a government, you probably don't want this because these people are going to be disincentivized from working, from actually doing something better, in which you probably see them turn into different lives of crime and etc. in order to actually live. Secondarily, why this is poisonous. Because those who hold the power are probably going to be objectively the ones who have very powerful superpowers. And as the government who hires these superheroes gives them that rank, right? Gives them that power. So what does this mean? This means that if the government doesn't choose you, you probably don't have that power over anybody, or that nobody else can have that power. In which, once again, it's disincentivized to have people actually gain this new type of power. The second argument that we're going to talk about is the idea that when there's no moral framework, right? As a government, you don't have superpowers. You're just a president and you're just a bunch of people that are grouped together. Do you have actual power to enforce, like, for example, Superman to follow your rules or, for example, not kill when you're supposed to not kill? No. And this is more going to be explained during the Deputy Prime Minister. All things, very, very proud to propose. Thank you. For Mr. 3 seconds? All right.
30 seconds.
30 seconds.
I think I can see 30 seconds.
Remember, point out a big rebuttals. Point out what I was weak in. I was weak in a lot of stuff today.
Yeah, I just heard it. Like when you started. Is that 일부러?
Is 일부러? And some of them are like 실수. So catch those both.
깜짝아.
Alright, 30 seconds. Leader of opposition, you have the floor.
Why don't you do this? I don't get that.
Why don't you guys do it for me? Come on, why don't you do it for me?
You're 저지.
Time. You guys don't do it for me.
You're 저지.
Don't you do it?
저지.
Every single person.
Last time who wanted to make that?
Last time who did this?
I think I don't woke up.
No, you'll do good.
You only have 2 arguments anyway. It's easy.
Remember, what's your biggest point? Like probably setting up your arguments.
I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Judge, do you want to live in a world where 80% pay more tax and pay for superpowers and that returns to the government? This is the government side. Hello, I am the leader of opposition. For the motion, this house as a government would remove the power of all superhumans. Before presenting our 2 arguments, I will talk about the setup. For the problem, 20% human being there is left. But the government is trying to help the 20%. Just because removing the superpowers, 80% lose and just 20% happy. That results 소유고 외양간 고치기. And for the second problem, it is scapegoat because 80% has to do scapegoat because of 20% will be happy. So the big problem. No, thank you. for the big problem, the 80% are scapegoating only for the 20%. And a stakeholder, the first stakeholder is the people who are not superhumans and the government, and the superhumans, which is our vulnerable stakeholder. And for the government, yes.
As you mentioned, yes, it's only 20% of the population. But 20% of the population will forever be part of the lower ranks of society. How is that justified?
Can I go on? Our criteria is who is the most vulnerable stakeholder, and government's burden is to make a society good for the most people. Our team's model is the world there is less harm of least amount of people, and the world without fighting, but the government is trying to make 80% a harm. And for our arguments, our first argument is it is not give and take, it's take and take.
Sure.
No.
Wait, you only have to answer one Q1? Yes. Okay.
Teacher, but I think I left the... Huh?
You have to go on.
Why is it take and take? The humans pay the 80% pay a lot of tax, so they got the superpowers. But the 80% if the 80% lose the superpower, then they just are paying a lot of tax, and the government takes the superpower, so it is take and take. For the impact, the 80% who is the most vulnerable stakeholder gets a lot of pain because of the just 20% to be happy. So 80% would be trying to do the protests. So the society would be not that good. And our second argument is it is not moral because the government takes a lot of tax and also takes superpowers they gave. Why this is a problem? It's because the government got already a lot of tax. Because of that, they need to give something for Teka. But if they took it, there is no moral because.
Speaker. That's it.
For these reasons, I'm very proud to propose.
Okay, thank you. Speaker for performance 46. Yeah.
Can we answer each other's twice?
Yeah. Of course. Yeah. During the deputy, you can have them answer it. Be like, oh, okay. So the previous speaker wasn't able to answer the POI.
Teacher, I didn't do the rebuttal.
No, you did.
Yeah, you did.
Oh, you did.
That was the first of the speech. I'll kill him.
All right, let me begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. So, Mr. Speaker, as the opposition comes up, we don't have a clear understanding of what their case actually is. They talk a lot about taxes, but what is it so important about these taxes? Number 2, every single person pays taxes anyways. So it's already justified for the 20% to also get all these taxes. What other are the types of taxes that you see under their side? We have no clear understanding. But we'll still try to make a rebuttal out of this. The first rebuttal that we're going to make is why these taxes are not important at all in this debate, right? Taxes are very, very limited, right? They just limit the scope just to making hey, if I pay more money towards the government, then clearly we should probably that they deserve a right to exist. No, that's not true at all. If that was true, then all poor people in the current world should die off because they don't pay enough taxes, right? Therefore, we shouldn't care about any of these poor people. That's the exact argument that the government, the opposition side is trying to tell you. Second thing, the reason why it's not right at the end of the day is because if that were true, they're still not engaging with our arguments about why the 20% are the more vulnerable stakeholders, meaning that this 20% don't magically get powers. We're talking about these people always being forced to be part of that low rank, no matter how smart, no matter how athletic, no matter how naturally good, for example, without superpowers, they're able to get to exceed in life. They will always be considered lesser than those of people who have superpowers. That is the reason why we're telling you it's so much more impactful. Because sure, 80% can enjoy their lives, but that means that the 20% of the population are going to probably be tortured, right? Being forced to work at lower end jobs, right?
POI.
Yes.
So that the 20% is by protecting by the 80%.
Here's the thing, and there's a reason why the second one we're talking about. There is already in the motion that the government is already hiring some superheroes to help them prevent harm. Meaning there are some people who are using their powers to do harm to others. And that means that who are they going to probably be targeting? Those who are weaker than them. And clearly it's going to be the 20% who have no powers, which is why we're telling you that's the biggest impact at the end of the day. And the reason why we have the second argument, the lack of a moral framework, right? As a government, you have a it's not only one single person. We're talking about various different branches and etc. that they have to operate. What does this look like? It looks like that the government has no control over an actual individual, right? If they don't have, for example, Superman as the president of the United States or something, there is no way to enforce any type of moral framework, right? So, for example, don't steal, don't kill, and etc. You can say that as a normal human being or someone with powers, but if Superman becomes evil and a villain, or is just probably not part of the government, you can't control them at all, right? What is the limitations of the government if suddenly Superman decides to kill somebody because they did something bad? What happens if instead of protecting, for example, war crimes, instead what they choose to do is just kill off every single, the entire country, the other country, because that's what Superman thinks is normal? That's what we're trying to talk about the government side. There's no way to control. And this is the problem. If you're not able to control one single superhero, what makes you think that you're going to be able to control the rest of the 80% of the population as the government, right? As the deputy leader of opposition, they have to come up and explain to us why people are suddenly going to protect this 20%, when as the government, we've clearly told you why they probably would still do harm, and especially to that 20%. But also, they have to explain to us this taxes part, which we clearly don't get. So what have we done to you as opposition today? We have clearly impacted the second argument, telling you that there's no way for the government to actually control these people or control these superheroes, which leads to a lot more chaos. And it's it's actually bound upon something that is called chance, right? You're hoping that a person or the superhero is good. You're hoping that this person is actually going to do good. But what is the world going to look like if people realize that they're way stronger than everybody else? All these reasons, very, very practical. Very good. All right. 30 seconds. Very good.
Get it? Okay.
I don't get it. Jenna, can you tell me?
No?
아쉽네.
이러면 선생님 윗스피커 0점 해주면 이제 알려드릴게요.
똑똑하네.
오버맨 윗 0 하면 이제
해주시면 75.
하면 이제 알려드릴게요. 괜찮아 이거
No,
필요 없을
no.
거야.
다 외웠어?
그냥 비번을
아니 나는 그냥 지금
비번을 공공식으로 할까?
아 조용히 하고 빨리 해.
007
안 되네.
오케이. 이상한 소리 나요.
I think it's broken.
I think it's the no thing.
I think it's
You
broken.
wanna start? You wanna start?
The?
The?
You said the.
No, I said the THE.
The
The. 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 It's part of the. Like the. Start.
오케이, so start.
시작해. Yep.
What?
시작해.
진짜 콜라가 있는데 선생님 생각하세요.
I
I'll start in 3, 2, 1.
Okay, as the opposite side, we are here to go against this motion to make a better society and a better government. So, as the Deputy Prime Minister, I'll do some rebuttals. Okay, so the government is clearly saying at their first argument, they're saying that the 80% of the people, the superhumans, are getting more higher than the 20%, which don't have superpowers, right? But they said there's no solvency, and except this motion. Okay, let's think about it. Even without this, the powerless, the superheroes or superhumans is not always rich, right? They might have useless powers, but they still have superpowers, right? And no normal people are not all poor, right? Getting a superpower doesn't mean that they're more smarter or more intelligent, right? They said that 20% has to be in the middle of a life under the 80%. But this is not true, which means that, I'm a 20%, but as this info slide says, that it said they are recruiting people to protect the harms in this world. Okay, so let's think about it. 80% of people is trying to protect this world and this government. And the government is just taking away their superpowers because they have to make it all the same, right? Okay, so 20% is going to say that, we were in a safe life because of these 80% people, and the government is just taking it away, right? And they said they get evil all the time, and they said that they're gonna be evil and evil. Okay, so let's think about it. Not all people gets evil. Someone has to be good, right? And someone does good things, even though they don't have anything that the government is giving, right? And these people, the government is recruiting. The people the government recruited are kind people. If they're not, if they're here to harm people, Yes.
Why is that necessary? Why is it necessary for them to be kind as long as they're powerful like Superman?
Okay, so he's not the only one. For example, I'm not the only one who has the superpower, right? There's a lot of people, and everyone is gonna look at it, and you're not the only superhero. So that's which means I'm not gonna Aerro, right? Okay,
go on.
so I'm not gonna be evil, like very chicken. Okay, so the deputy prime minister said that I have to say that why the people will protect this society. Okay, so let's think about it. The government recruited us, and the government is giving me money to protect these worlds, and I'm being recruited, right? So why not, right? The deputy prime minister doesn't exactly why, except they're gonna be evil, right? Okay, so rebuilding again. About our take and take, they're saying that more rich, even if the superhumans are rich, okay, does the government think they will give the same tax as the poor people, right? No. As the government, they want to make a world which is a peaceful and, if it's possible, make more money, right? But I have rich people at 80% in my land. Why not take taxes? And some government doesn't take taxes from poor people, which means they get their money to themselves. So if they get powerless, which means that they're taking more taxes than the other people, and they're taking their powers, which means to get unstable society. Okay, so with that, for this exam, I'm very proud to oppose.
Okay, thank you. Speakers for proposing for 20 seconds.
Teacher, I want to do some rebuttals. Inya clapped 1 time as 3 minutes 4 seconds. And Inya clapped 2 times as 4 minutes 3 seconds. That's a rebuttal. The judge is judging right. So the judge gets -1.
That's a good point.
Interesting. I'll begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. Mr. Speaker, in today's debate, there were 2 clear clashes. Number 1, is it important for there to be is it justified to take away the powers of the 80% of the population for the 20%? And the second clash is whether or not is there going to be a moral code between superheroes and normal humans, right? And especially the government. Some clarifications though. Before we go on, we want to first tell you that this is an actor motion. So we have to understand why this is beneficial to the government. Not to the superheroes or to society, but to government itself. That's why we have been explaining to you why the government itself needs this to happen. And especially in the idea to be able to control many of these superheroes. That's why we've been telling you from the get-go that the most important goal of today's debate was to be able to create a clear world where government is able to control their most powerful force, which is currently superheroes. But clearly, the world does not ensure or does not guarantee that the government can protect them. Yes.
No, I'm just
You what?
kidding.
Okay, let's go on with some rebuttals given by the Deputy Leader of Opposition.
You
They talk a lot about They talk a lot about the idea of this idea of safety and being able to protect themselves and etc. Here's the point that we want to make. If they need that safety, isn't it also safe to get rid of everybody's superpower so that they don't have the power to abuse from the get-go? I think that's a more easier solution to all their example of safety, right? No matter how much this 80% is able to have or save these 20%, a more fair or better solution is just to remove every person's power so that they're all equal, and that at the end of the day they can all be punished by, for example, a gun or by a knife. Something that doesn't limit them. For example, if you're Superman and if you do something bad and evil, and nobody can punish you, right? And that idea of no punishment is very, very important, and it's going to come up with our clashes. But the second rebuttal we want to make is under idea of on this idea of why is there there's going to be superheroes around you, therefore you won't actually turn out bad. Here's the reason why this is wrong. What what is the incentive of these stakeholders? Why are they not going to turn back? Sure, there can be many superheroes around you, and sure, they might like somewhat check on each other, but what happens is suddenly all the superheroes start to like, or the majority of the superheroes agree that a certain thing is just okay, right? For example, killing if it serves the right of people, or like killing around 5% of the population to save like around 80% of the population. So does that justify killing 5 million people to save 800 million people? That's still 5 million deaths, right? Well, that's what I'm talking to you about, and the reason why I tell you that this is so much harmful. Do the 20% have a say or actual power to say something against that? No, zero power, and that's what we're telling you, that that is a point of vulnerability. And the first clash that we're going to prove about to you. The first clash that we're going to tell you is, number one, is it justified for the 20% to actually to sacrifice the 80%'s power for the 20%? We say yes. Because the only relevant argument that comes from the opposition side is the idea about taxes. And we don't understand why taxes are so important, right? The biggest point that we might want to make is, if they're going to be the only thing about paying taxes, then literally you can also have more taxes under our side if you think about it, right? If you make everybody equal people, it's no longer about paying taxes. It's about those who are, that everybody has to pay taxes because they're equally human. There's nobody who's more powerful than you. Therefore, you are all justified to create more taxes. So that argument already is pushed out. But why is it that government side wins then? It is because we tell you that the 20% of people who are much more vulnerable have zero way of getting out of this hierarchy. And this means that they lose hope. There's a lot of conflict. And then the majority of these 20% probably will end up going to like negative crimes and etc. Then the second clash, right? On the idea of this moral code. Let's agree that there might be a moral code. But here's the problem. The actual incentive of the government is to make sure that they are going to be clear, there's going to be clear control of the government over these superheroes. There is none of that on the opposition side, only on the government side. And this is important because the vulnerable people of the 20% will be probably harmed by these abilities. For all these reasons, time to propose. Thank you.
Wait, actually, no.
Thank you. All right.
I did a good job at clapping.
야, 지금 like 정확히 4분 00초.
짝짝.
Can I start my like speech tomorrow? So I'm just joking. Okay? Oh wait a minute. I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Judge, what is the overall role of the government? Obviously, it's to help the citizens be happy and fair. However, in my speech today, I'll talk about why government this government didn't really think about this, and why our government is more better as the opposition will. Now, going straight to my clashes, my first clash is going to about which side was more immoral. Okay, so about the government side, so you're using the 80% of people as a scapegoat because the 80% people are the most vulnerable stakeholders, and let me explain more about this. Okay, so the 80% people gave more money for the technology and used their superpowers for the technology, but now you're taking that away, which I don't think is kind of logical. And furthermore, you're just using them as a scapegoat. And now about the 20% of them. So you make the 20% poor with this motion, first of all, and then now you're giving them a better world. Okay, so this is also unlogical, and yes, government may think that it's at least making them a better world now, but let me rebut to this later on too. An opposition side as us.